offering this talk along with my humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Swami. Saram, everyone. I'll start with a little story of how I came to Swami. I came into Swami's fold in the early 1990s when I was still in college. My father was the first devotee in my family. At that time, none of the other family members believed in Swami. One day, my father, he brought home a framed picture of Swami, but my mother did not want to place that in our prayer room along with all the other gods. And then there was an argument. And my father, he left this picture temporarily on a couch in our living room. And we all went inside. Then later on, we heard a loud bang. And we all rushed into the living room. And then we saw the glass was shattered, the glass covering Swami's picture. It was shattered, as if someone took a hammer and stuck it with it. Strangely, the picture itself was not moved at all. So my mother, she got frightened. She felt there is something extraordinary about Swami. She didn't believe in Swami, but she felt there is something extraordinary. And my father later replaced the glass of the picture, and at that time it was allowed in my prayer room. But I still remained a skeptic. Sometime later, my parents planned a visit to Puttaparthi, and I was also kind of forced to join them. By the time we reached Parthi, it was evening, and the evening darshan had already begun. Those days, the darshan area was a little different. There was also like a gate from we could sit outside the gate and see Swami walking inside and giving darshan. So since we could not get inside, we hurried to the gate and we sat down. And at that exact moment, Swami was passing from the men's side to the ladies' side. So he crossed the gate, then he took a few steps, and then suddenly started walking backward. And he continued until he reached exactly where I was sitting. So he stood right in front of me. And he was inside the gate, of course, and I was outside. Then he just craned his neck and looked straight into my eyes for a few seconds. And then he walked away. So that gaze was so powerful, and it actually entered into my soul, I would say. And I was completely stunned. I felt as though Swami was saying, "At last you have come." The next morning, by Swami's grace, we were seated in the first row, and Swami came near. I saw him closely, and immediately I knew that Swami was divine. I don't know, I cannot explain logically. Perhaps it was Swami's aura or it was his love, but in that moment, I had no doubt in my mind. My father then prayed for Par Namaskar, and Swami blessed all of us. The moment I touched his feet, I felt like a throbbing sensation that moved upward my spine, and I went into a complete state of bliss. So it took some time for me to return to normalcy. Then I came back from Puttaparthi, and as a completely transformed person, I began reading Swami's books and studying his discourses. And I got deeply drawn into his teachings. Soon, I began to have a series of dreams in which Swami would come and he would lovingly answer some of my questions, and he used to teach me some lessons. So in one of the dreams, Swami was a principal in my high school. So I was showing him an essay that I had written. Swami took a pen and he pointed to the word where I had written Swami. And there was the Swami was, the letter S was written in small lowercase. So he crossed it out and he replaced with a capital S. So this dream carried a very simple but a literal lesson. So whenever I wrote Swami's name or I referred to him as he, him or his, whatever it is, I should capitalize the first letter. But it also carried a deeper message for me that Swami must always be given the highest importance and place in our lives. So many of these dreams that I had during that period were along these lines. It contained both a direct message and also a deeper spiritual meaning. So through those dreams, I felt Swami's love and attention almost every day. Then all of a sudden, all the dreams stopped. I began feeling that Swami no longer loved me. I had become so accustomed to his presence and his attention, then when those dreams ended abruptly, I was feeling that I felt abandoned. So I decided that I should somehow get his attention. At that time, I was doing an internship in a city far away from my hometown. So one night I was traveling back home by train, and there was no railway station in my hometown. There was two stations, each about like 15 miles away, on opposite sides of the town. One station was in a reasonably busy area. It's a small town where you can get transportation even usually, even after dark. The other station was in a remote area with almost no transportation after dark. Naturally, naturally, the sensible thing I had to do was to get down at the busier station. But then then this strange and foolish thought came to my mind. I told Swami, you have been ignoring me all this while. I'm going to get down at this remote station. If you really love me, you must send some transportation to take me home. Otherwise, I would walk 15 miles through that unsafe area as a protest. And you know what I said? I will teach Swami a lesson for ignoring me. So just imagine the arrogance, right? So I got down at the remote station after midnight and I stood beside the road. There were absolutely no cars. There were no people. There was only me and a few stray dogs. So I waited, and I waited and waited. I began praying, Swami, please send me a ride. Nothing came. I waited for probably more than half an hour. Now I slowly started feeling a little afraid, frightened. This area was known to be unsafe at night. So until then, I believed that I was testing Swami, but very soon I realized I was the one being tested. So I was thinking, even if a vehicle came, why would it stop for me, right? And even if it stopped, what were the chances that it would be going towards my hometown? So I finally understood my mistake. So I prayed, Swami, I know you're always with me. I do not need to do any of these foolish things to feel your love. I'm really sorry and I will never do this again. I had created this situation, so now I am prepared to face the consequences. With that, I started walking. Just as I started walking, I saw a headlight in a distance. So a vehicle was approaching. So I waved my hands, hoping that driver might stop. To my great relief, the vehicle pulled over. It was a taxi. And I asked the taxi driver where he was going. To my complete amazement, he said he was traveling to my hometown. So he invited me to get in. So I had lived in my town all my life. And there were only a handful of taxis running there during that time. And I knew almost all of them. But I had never seen this driver or this vehicle any time before. So throughout the journey, I was thanking Swami and apologizing to him at the same time. So the driver took me all the way just near to my home and dropped me off. Then I asked him how much I owe you. And his reply was, I was coming here anyway. You do not owe me anything. So from that night onward, I never doubted Swami's presence in my life. Brother, how much time? 5 more minutes. So during those days, I was a non-vegetarian and ate meat regularly. So, a saintly Sai devotee who occasionally visited my hometown, once he spoke to me very sternly, very firmly. He said, "How can you call yourself a Sai devotee and continue eating meat?" He reminded me that according to Swami's teachings, being vegetarian is one of the basic requirements to lead a spiritual life. So at that time, I was preparing to move to the United States for work, and I expressed my concern to him. What will I do if I cannot find vegetarian food in America? So his reply was, "You are giving up meat to follow Swami's teachings. Then it becomes Swami's responsibility to provide you with vegetarian food. Do you have that much faith?" I said, "Yes." So that day I stopped eating meat and became a strict vegetarian. Soon afterwards, this was in 1997, I moved to the United States. My company assigned me to a client in a very remote location. I was new to this country, and I did not know anybody there. So on my first day, I went to the office cafeteria to have lunch. I looked through all the available options in the menu, and just as I had feared, there was nothing vegetarian available. So I took a few slices of bread, I toasted them, and applied some butter that was available, and sat down to eat. Just as I was about to begin, an Indian gentleman walked over and he asked me, "Why are you eating only bread?" So I explained to him I was a vegetarian, and this cafeteria, I did not see any vegetarian options. So then he immediately sat across me, and then he opened his lunchbox that he had brought from his home. And he said, "I have chapatis and subji. I will share this with you today. And from tomorrow onwards, I will bring two lunch boxes, one for you and one for me." So my eyes were filled with tears. Swami had not merely provided the food, right, vegetarian food. He sent someone to be my friend, to personally sit across me and share his meal. That was Swami's love. So this gentleman and I, soon we became close friends. Later, by Swami's grace, we founded a company together, and it went on to become successful by his grace. So when I look back at these experiences, I realized that Swami did not enter my life through just one dramatic event alone. He came in the beginning through a shattered glass that opened the door to our prayer room. He came through a gaze at the gates at Prasanthi Nilayam that removed my doubts. He came through dreams that corrected and guided me. He came as a mysterious taxi driver on a dark and deserted road. And he came through a simple lunchbox containing chapatis and subji. Sometimes we may feel Swami is silent. Sometimes we may feel he is distant. Sometimes we may start wondering why he is not listening to our prayers. But his silence does not mean his absence. He's always present, always guiding, always protecting. And he is providing exactly what we need, even before we understand what we truly need. So only question is whether we have the faith and patience to recognize his hand in our lives. Thank you, Swami, for entering my life, for transforming me, for tolerating my doubts and foolishness, and never giving up on me. Jai Sai Ram.